In Montreal's exclusive island community, an elite golf club employs the services of a biotech corporation to maintain their pristine courses. Employing their cutting-edge fertilizer, the company ensures the snow melts, keeping the course vibrant and playable even in the winter, so the well-heeled members can enjoy golf year-round. Meanwhile, a private security officer, Dan, prepares for disaster at his Montreal home, in line with the conspiracy theories touted by his favorite radio show. Attempting to start a fire without matches ends in a minor mishap, resulting in a singed eyebrow. At the same time, Patricia, Dan's daughter, is engaged as a caddy at the golf club while Michelle, the head of the biotech firm, plays a round of golf with wealthy clients, showcasing the lush greens resulting from their fertilizer. There's a hidden menace, however. The fertilizer is silently seeping into the community's water supply, contaminating it. At a different location, actor Jacques unknowingly consumes the contaminated water before departing for a supermarket trip. The produce and implements at the store have also been washed with the infected water, while the shelves carry the spray of the polluted tap water to keep items fresh. Jacques starts to feel unwell but shrugs it off initially. Arriving home, he notices his teeth turning green and experiences stomach cramps. Catching his wife in the washroom, he by this point has transformed into a zombie. The unfortunate woman becomes his first victim, succumbing to his zombie bite and transforming into one herself. Jacques and his undead spouse share a chilling moment in a bathtub, complete with green eyes and halted movements. Back at the golf club, Michel and his clients find themselves alone in the main structure. Their solitude is shattered by a frantic man warning them of an unnamed sickness. He's swiftly followed by a horde of zombie staff members in pursuit. A dog also makes an appearance, furiously leaping on and biting one of the wealthy clients as Michelle and the client's husband battle to fend it off. The horror intensifies as they spot more zombies emerging from their hideouts. In the midst of her transformation into a zombie, a woman remains in a frozen state, prompting the immediate response of the two men present. Intent on seeking refuge, they flee within the safety of a nearby building, ensuring the entrance is securely locked as a measure to fend off the approaching undead. Their defense is, however, breached by a dog that quickly gnaws on the man's leg, compelling them to confine it within another room. The tension escalates rapidly as his human form succumbs to the transformation following the bite. Consequently, his pursuit of Michelle begins, who in reaction arms himself with a knife and scurries into the kitchen. Elsewhere in town, an elderly woman's outcry over her neighbor's turbulent behavior prompts an intervention from Dan. Upon his arrival, he witnesses the horrifying sight of his neighbors, now converted into zombies, asserting their presence on the other side of the entrance. Simultaneously, the elderly woman herself undergoes the harrowing transformation, and the chase for Dan commences. His instinctual reaction is to seek the safety of his vehicle and lodge a distress call, which, unfortunately, receives no response. His attempts to establish contact with Patricia also prove futile. In the midst of the escalating chaos, he decides to relinquish his company vehicle to retrieve his personal car equipped with a weapon and begins his search for his daughter. Meanwhile, Andre, a teenager, narrowly avoids using tap water while preparing his infant sister Annie's milk, following a cautious reminder from their mother to prioritize the use of bottled water. Andre's disdain for water is evident in his inclination towards carbonated drinks. Their mother's sudden bout of dizziness is dismissed by Andre as a straightforward consequence of her regular exercise regimen. The suspense intensifies when the mother's state degenerates abruptly into a full zombie transformation, prompting a frenzied chase within their residence. Andre's harrowing attempt to evade her leads him into tripping outside their home. As his mother closes in on him, Dan intervenes in the nick of time, and with the impact of his car, injures her severely, though she remains alive. Andre's instinct to aid his mother is halted by Dan, who conveys the unnerving revelation that the emergency services remain unreachable. He advises Andre to find refuge within his house, but Andre resolutely stands his ground, refusing to abandon his mother. He struggles to drag her into their house and barricades all possible entries. His desperate calls for help are met with an automated response, a chilling announcement that their island is faced with an enforced quarantine. It's uncovered at the points where the island and mainland intersect. A barricade has been erected by the city's law enforcement, preventing any form of movement in or out. Concurrently, the mother makes an attempt to assault Annie, prompting Andre to intervene, apprehend her, and sequester her in the washroom. Upon observing the showerhead's slight leaks, she chooses to get into the bath. As this happens, Annie's incessant weeping starts to draw the undead towards their door. In an attempt to mask the sound, Andre blankets her with cushions, a quilt, and even a substantial stuffed toy until her sobbing becomes inaudible, causing the encroaching zombies to dissipate. Shortly after, Andre's feline companion saunters back into their home via the animal entrance. Unexpectedly, a flesh-eating creature reaches through trying to grab Andre, but the boy flees the room. The creature freezes until Andre re-emerges clutching a golf club. However, he opts to remain hidden rather than striking it. Simultaneously, Patricia finds refuge in the golf clubhouse garage and finally contacts her father for support. Dan Swiflety reaches the scene and comes across several zombies outside. However, he doesn't dread battling them and proceeds to swiftly end a few and stuns others using a knife before rushing inside. Just when this occurs, the police retreat from blocking the bridge as military troops soar in via aircrafts to ravage the primary locations on the island, leading to a power outage. The subsequent dawn, Annie's babysitter attempts to drive across the bridge to reach her job, but discovers it's been decimated. Meanwhile, Andre films the zombies through the window, pausing only to tune into a news conference from the Secretary of Internal Affairs. The official elaborates that the destruction of the bridge was a necessary measure to quarantine the chaos and affirms that the situation is in check. Just then, Andre's phone battery drains out. Furthermore, upon inspecting his mother, Andre finds her drenched in some grotesque green liquid. Out of the blue, Annie crawls in and their mother lunges to attack her. To divert her, Andre generates noise and rustles her beloved vegetables to lead her away. Upon reaching the living room, his mother clumsily collides with the television stand, leading to its tumble and resulting in her death. A dejected Andre is left with no option but to move her body back to the restroom, where he notices grass sprouting on her wounds. He retrieves her phone, only to find it dysfunctional. Next, Andre takes a ladder to the front door for a survey outside and establishes that the walking dead still lurk under the daylight. Finally, having enough of the isolation, he clutches the golf club, secures Annie in a baby carrier, and opens the door, allowing the zombies to notice the cat and give chase. With a cleared path, Andre makes a break for the grocery shop, with an undead mob in pursuit. He finds the gate locked and is nearly swamped by the monsters when, at the last minute, a door swings open and Dan pulls him inside. Dan arrived the previous day, setting up a modest campsite, although he lacks a clear strategy. All the boats have been removed, making it lethal to attempt a river swim due to hypothermia. Andre heads off to locate baby milk substitute, whilst Annie explores. Suddenly, Annie stumbles upon a locked door hiding a zombie, Patricia, who is now also infected. Dan has chosen to keep her close in the hope a cure will eventually materialize. At the golf club, Michel has secured all entrances. He uses a radio to stay in contact with his company staff, who inform him that specialists are en route, and he must adhere to certain procedures. A zombie dog continuously barks at him, forcing him to shoo it away. It then becomes apparent that he's killed his mate in the kitchen. Meanwhile, back at the shop, Dan struggles to maintain a fire, so Andre utilizes a blowtorch. As they dine, they listen to Dan's preferred radio broadcast. The announcer believes eco-terrorists are to blame for the zombie onslaught. The presenter manages to secure an interview with the public safety minister, only to be given evasive responses in indecisive language. The suspicious host theorizes that the government may be prepared to sacrifice its citizens to restore order. Dan decides to make an outgoing call to the radio station to announce their survival and request assistance. However, the host, concerned about the spread of the contagion, insists on understanding the full situation before pledging his support. This prompts a frustrated Dan to hang up. Afterwards, Dan and Andre concur that they need to find the cause of the outbreak in order to develop a vaccine. With some thought, Dan surmises the water could be the cause. Considering it's the one common element to all people, however, his paranoia prevents him from consuming tap water. Suggesting that the water supply might have been a target for terrorists is something Andre finds absurd. Shortly after, the three of them, together with Patricia, who now has her head sequestered within a cage to prevent biting, exit the shop. They come across a group of zombies smeared in green slime and basking in the sun, with a young girl launching an attack on Dan at first sight. In a swift motion, he shoves her aside, his conscience preventing him from murdering her, and proceeds onward. The team successfully enters Dan's vehicle before being overrun by the undead and escapes the vicinity unscathed. Concurrently, an armed duo, who are twin siblings sent by the Biotechnology Corporation, arrive at the golf club and efficiently eliminate every single undead creature that crosses their path. Inside the clubhouse, Michel is in the midst of incinerating all contracts and paperwork related to his agreement with the club, retaining only a tiny specimen of the fertilizer. Soon after, the twins locate Michel. He manages to snatch one of their suitcases, which houses orbs filled with an antidote that can neutralize the infection within a day. As he seizes one of these orbs, the twins apprehend him, forcing him to consume the fertilizer specimen before rendering him unconscious. As his limp body is being hauled away, one orb tumbles onto the floor. Switching focus back to the escapees, they reach a water plant and come to a decision to leave Annie in the vehicle to prevent her weeping from attracting the undead. With Patricia unable to be left with the infant, Dan and Andre escort her inside the building where a plant-like undead creature lurks in the water. Sensing its presence, Patricia bolts toward it, leaving the men with no option but to trail behind her. She locates the pool swiftly and dives in, prompting Dan to dive in after her in a rescue attempt. Out of nowhere, another undead surfaces and is about to launch an attack. However, when Dan gets hold of Patricia, he shields himself with her, causing the undead to retreat. Upon approaching, Andre makes the unsettling discovery that the zombies will not harm each other. Suddenly, one of the creatures notices Andre and immediately gives chase. As Andre flees into the open, he is pursued by an increasing number of zombies. Meanwhile, Dan attempts to rescue Patricia from a body of water and inadvertently rips off her arm. Andre, in due course, reaches a car and takes refuge inside. Soon, Dan also escapes, skillfully using Patricia as a human shield against the zombies. They join the brothers in the car, and Andre hears a noise that makes him realize that Patricia also has a phone. Andre takes the device and makes use of Patricia's detached limb to unlock it, revealing grass growing from the severed flesh. This perplexes Dan, as grass growing in winter is unusual until he recalls the golf club's recent innovation. It dawns on him that this may not be the handiwork of terrorists, but golfing enthusiasts. At the golf club, twins are seen busily attempting to destroy mysterious orbs scattered around the green to eradicate any proof of their deeds. Upon Dan's group's arrival, they note the peculiar haze over the golf course and ensure it's all caught on camera. As the front door is locked, Dan embarks on searching for an alternate entrance leading him to the roof and inside the premises to unlock the front door for his squad. Patricia is confined in a storage room while Andre tactically utilizes chairs to create a secured playing area for young Annie. Their investigation of the building leads them to discover a dog, still alive but covered in grass. Suddenly, Dan starts feeling unwell, and Annie starts crying, propelling Andre to rush to her side only to find she's escaped her makeshift enclosure. As Andre sets off in search of his sister, Dan stumbles upon a stash of explosives set to destroy the building imminently. His condition deteriorates, but he continues on his mission, finding a room housing the timer, controlling the explosives. With the remnants of his strength, Dan uses Patricia's severed arm to halt the countdown, just as his eyes turn green. Unaware, the twins outside notice no explosion and re-enter the building where they come across Annie in the kitchen. Before making their exit, they feed her some fertilizer. Andre, now in panic mode, stumbles across a zombified Michel, locked in a room but manages to locate his sister and leads her to safety. In an adjacent chamber, Andre encounters the twins blocking his path, forcefully attempting to feed him fertilizer by suppressing Annie's screams. Just as the twins endeavor to feed him, Annie turns into a zombie and injures one of the twins. In reaction, the other twin almost falls victim to Dan's attack when Andre shoves her towards him and Dan injures her. On retreating, Andre inadvertently steps on the antidote sphere, initiating its smoke to spread in the room and commence its work within Annie and Dan. In the ensuing chaos, Dan rushes after Andre towards the kitchen. However, just as Dan is about to injure him, he senses Annie and refrains. Concurrently, the twins take out their weapons and mutually wound each other, preventing full transformation. Subsequently, Andre retrieves Dan's old-fashioned telephone from his coat and rings Patricia's phone. Upon locating it, he films a video detailing the events and pleading for rescue. While the video spreads on the news, Andre takes Dan to a secluded room where he can safely stay with his daughter. The government swiftly sends military helicopters for thorough cleansing. A squad of soldiers equipped with flamethrowers move to eradicate any zombies on site, whereupon Andre goes out to seek assistance, presenting Patricia's arm for potential vaccines. A different survivor reaches the troops first, but gets gunned down. As the cure kicks in and Annie gets better, Andre decides to hide since obviously the soldiers aren't here to save anyone. At the golf club, Dan recovers as well, but he and Patricia are incinerated immediately when the soldiers open the door. The public security minister announces that the plague has been successfully contained and eradicated, while conspicuously sipping from a mug displaying the biotech firm's logo, suggesting his involvement in the conspiracy. Andre remains on the move, discovering numerous survivor bodies that were executed. Unexpectedly, Andre spots a boat in the river carrying volunteers, led by Annie's nanny, who does not hesitate to rescue him. As they leave the island, Andre realizes that his arm is now useless and throws it into the water, where a fish bites it and quickly transforms into a zombie.